Welcome back, y'all.
Welcome back. What episode is this, Bacardi?
Episode 7, Shop Talk. We in the building.
Yes, sir. We made it to episode 7. We've been trying to get to this episode. As many of you know, we announced in the beginning, we were going to do 7 episodes and then release all these episodes and highlight them one by one at a time. I hope you guys enjoy these episodes. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, thank you for your support, man. We appreciate it. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here.
Yes, sir.
So we greatly appreciate y'all tuning in, man.
Yeah. We got a cool topic today. Tell them what it is, Bacardi.
The topic today is goals. Goals. What goals do you want to set in your life? Everyone should have a goal to set. Everyone should have a goal, and you should accomplish that goal.
Yeah, you've had goals. I've had goals. And,
yes, sir.
And I feel like we've accomplished some of them goals.
Yes.
But we have more.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with setting a goal, accomplishing it, and moving on to a new goal.
Right.
Limit ourselves?
No,
nah.
you can't limit yourself.
Nah. Let's start up with you, for example. You are known as primarily a DJ.
Right. I started as a DJ.
Yeah, you started off as a DJ, but you have reinvented yourself.
Yes.
Time and time again.
Yes, sir.
Because one title wasn't enough.
No, not at all.
So you went from DJ, producer, engineer.
Yes, sir.
Now you designing videos, media design. You are a photographer at weddings, and you fly a drone into that wedding if you need to.
Absolutely.
And it's just, this is what I mean. Is like I'm sure when you were first starting out.
Oh, I never thought I would do all this.
The main goal for you was, let me at least get the scratch down.
That's it.
Let me know how to blend from one song to the next.
Yes, sir.
And you mastered that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You probably got around some people who maybe influenced you.
A lot of people who are famous nowadays, I look back, I'm like, wow, these people like super made it. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
But those people made it. You made it too.
No, I know that. Yeah,
I know
what
I'm saying? Because you were able to say to yourself, man, I want to learn this, and you learned it.
Right.
No one just donated knowledge to you.
No.
You had to dive in and put the work in.
Right.
You had to learn and teach yourself, educate.
And back then there was no YouTube, so you couldn't go online and let me search how to do this, how to do that.
This was trial and error.
That's it.
Yes, sir. So big ups to DJ Bacardi.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
And a lot of the DJs out there that just been putting in work for years.
Yes, sir.
Remember, man, don't limit yourself. There's so much more out there, and my man Bacardi is doing it.
Thank you, man.
That's him as an example. For me, I'm a barber, but I didn't just limit myself to barbering.
Right.
I went through, actually, remember, I had 2 barbershops,
Yeah, that's right. And you had a food truck.
I had a food truck, right? And now I'm getting a taste of commercial real estate.
Right. Let's not forget, this man owns properties too, so
so I'm just trying to make it. I'm trying to reinvent myself.
That's right.
Every time,
Right.
So right now, like for example, 12 years ago, what was my goal? My goal was to at least have 10, 15 clients to cut that week. And then one day I said, I gotta have a barbershop. And I chipped away, I got a barbershop. I gotta find barbers to help me out in this barbershop, and I found them. I didn't know how to cut every head that sat in the chair.
Right.
So what did I have to do? I had to set a goal. I had to say, I gotta learn this style. I gotta learn this haircut. I gotta be nice with the scissors. I gotta get better at my customer service. And all this, you just get better at it with time.
Yeah.
And now we have established a goal for ourselves.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, we're in our 40s, and we are establishing a goal and said, listen, let's start a podcast from scratch. We have no experience doing this, but we know that we have the ability.
That's right.
We know that when our brains get together, that we can come up with a master plan to execute this
sir.
And that's what it takes. You have to have a plan.
Yep.
You don't plan, a lot of times you will fail.
That's right.
What's that saying? Fail to plan to fail.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's like the first saying I ever said correct.
Yes.
Google me.
And that is such 100%
accurate.
Same right there. Accurate.
Yes.
So accurate.
Yes. And today, man, I gotta tell you, today we have such a cool guest. First of all, his name is Preston Frazier. Preston Frazier, first of all, you should Instagram him. I'm gonna put his Instagram on there for you.
It'll definitely be in the bio.
It's This Old Trike. At This Old Trike. And let me tell you something, this dude comes from upstate New York, the Adirondack Mountains. You would have never expected someone like him to be nestled into these forests up here. but this gentleman happens to be the biggest Honda three-wheeler collector in the whole world.
Wow, that's amazing.
The biggest Honda three-wheeler collector in the world. Now, we were talking about goals. This guy set a goal for himself.
Right.
He got a three-wheeler. He loved it as a kid, and he grew up. And what happened that sparked his desire to say, man, I want all of them though. You know, like some people collect baseball cards, or some people, and this guy said, I want all of them. So,
and he set that goal and he accomplished it.
He set the goal and he accomplished it. He's a client of mine. I have the liberty of cutting his hair, and this guy did not have all of them when I first started cutting his hair, but he was chipping away at it, and he would tell me and update me about him every haircut. He would tell me, I'm looking for this other one. I gotta travel to this place and pick that up, and I got this one that I'm trying to negotiate a price. And then just when you thought that he was done collecting, he found all of them. He found out that there was one more. There was one missing out of his collection. He had a whole barn full of every Honda three-wheeler in the world. He thought there was one more.
Wow.
And he got it in a different country.
Right.
We're going to get the details on that story. Before he comes on, what's something that you might say to a DJ out there, right? He's hungry. He's 17, 18 years old. He sees all the YouTube videos. He sees how all these DJs, they're rocking huge parties, and he's only got the dream of maybe being in that DJ's shoes one day.
Well, my opinion and my advice would be to a young DJ is like, you have so many tools that you can use.
What are some of the tools? And I know YouTube is
the internet.
You know, yes.
To me, I think the internet and social media. Go follow all the biggest DJs.
Yes.
See what they're doing.
Yes.
See the gigs that they're trying to accomplish, or the gigs that they have accomplished, or the trades that they accomplished.
Yes.
Follow that. Use that for your regimen as a guide. Make a list or set up a pattern that you can follow with these DJs, and then use that in accomplishing, or try to accomplish close to what you can. I think that never be scared, because once you're scared, you're gonna always limit yourself, and you're gonna only cause a setback for yourself.
Right.
Never be scared.
Yeah.
The only thing you should fear is actually accomplishing the goal. And once you accomplish that goal, the fear is gone, and you just want to go even further. But I think a lot of young DJs need to just go on social media. When I was younger, we had no social media, we had no YouTube, we had none of that.
But you still had to make it happen.
We still had to make it happen. I would go to see Funk Master Flex perform, just to even, and he's not even a great DJ. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
But I used to go see him, what he was doing, and how he used to get the crowd hype. You got to pick up these tools to see what to do. So my advice is to do that, man.
Heck yeah. That's what's up. That's what's up, you know. And you know, for me, for a young aspiring barber, I gotta say the same thing, you know, like there's so many advantages out there that are at your fingertips.
Right.
Go out there and educate yourself, you know.
Right.
But YouTube isn't gonna give you everything.
Nope.
You gotta get your hands dirty.
That's it.
You gotta go out there, you gotta feel that pressure. Your heart gotta beat different.
Exactly.
You know, and let me tell you, no matter what you do, you're gonna feel a little nervous. If you weren't feeling nervous, then you might be doing something wrong.
Right.
Or you might be lacking some passion. Because if you this passionate about it, you want it to do so good that anything else is gonna it's gonna disturb you. You know, so you want it to be so perfect that you are having a little anxiety, you know, thinking about it.
Right.
But yo, just take the risk. Let me tell you something. I opened up a second barbershop, and that was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Cutting a ribbon for the second location, not knowing how it's gonna work. Yo, when I got the food truck on my grand opening day, oh my God. I mean, so many people came out to support us. We had a line around the corner for our food truck, and what happens? The propane tank started freezing up where it connects into the truck, and it was like, what happened? How is this happening? I had to call the guy I bought it from, and you know, we had to listen. It's not gonna go smooth every single time.
Right.
You're gonna get scammed along the way.
That's right.
You know, but it doesn't matter. Yo, keep going, learn from it, because guess what? We got to the root cause of this problem. Shout out to Josh Wilson at True Temp Heating and Cooling. Josh Wilson at True Temp Heating and Cooling. Man, that guy said, yo, bring your truck over, I'm gonna take care of it. And this dude, he did what he had to do. He gave me the proper advice. Preston, he's gonna be here momentarily, I think.
Problem.
And there.
Did
I call that or what?
Wow.
Did I call that or what? Preston Frazier, how you doing?
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir. This is the one and only DJ Bacardi.
Yes, sir.
Feel free to put those headphones on.
This is my first podcast.
All right.
Oh, nice. Everybody, give a warm welcome. Yes. We got the one and only Preston Frazier, and I literally just said, Mr. Frazier's gonna be here, and then all of a sudden, boom.
It was like natural.
He came through fast too. I thought he was on a 3-wheeler.
Almost. I thought about it.
You thought about it? Oh, that would have been hot. You imagine that? Wheeling into the podcast.
Yes, sir.
I say wheeling to the podcast because this gentleman has video footage of him wheeling from one side of his living room to the other side of his living room, right?
Are you serious?
Yeah. We'll have to include a clip of that.
We have to put a clip in that. We have to.
Mr. Frazier, introduce yourselves. Let the people know who you are, man.
Well, I'm Preston Frazier. I'm from about 20 minutes north of here, Northville, New York, and born and raised there. I work here locally. Been getting my hair cut at Fulton County Barbershop for over 3 years now.
Wow. It's a privilege to cut your hair.
Absolutely. What little there is of it.
You know, Preston has the biggest Honda 3-wheeler collection in the world.
Yes, he was telling us before he arrived, and I was just like amazed.
And we were talking about goal setting, right? So today's topic was goals, and that's why this is perfect for you to join us on this day, because you set a goal. It's a very interesting goal, you know. You don't hear this every day, but you set the goal, you chipped away at it, and it wasn't easy because, from my understanding, you got 3-wheelers shipped to you across seas.
Yes.
Wow.
A couple times. So I was telling Bacardi, letting the people know, listen, my man set a goal, and I've been cutting his hair for years now, and he didn't accomplish the goal that whole time. He was chipping away at it, all right? So he was a family man. He was a hard worker. He was going home and working on his dream because, I mean, you do a lot of the own work inside your garage where you house these, right? Let the people know, how many 3-wheelers do you have?
So I got to correct you.
Okay, correct me.
I'm flattered. I do not have the largest 3-wheeler collection.
Okay.
No, Honda. I said Honda.
There might be guys with more than me. So I have one of each model, year, and color that Honda made.
Wow.
So, to my knowledge, the only one that's done that.
Right.
But I know of more than a couple people that have bigger collections, nicer things. You know, they might not just be Honda only. They might have, Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, other things.
So they have. There's people out there with a bigger collection, but they mix match different brands in
His
there.
is strictly Honda.
He's a Honda guy.
I've had other brands, but they don't stay.
Right.
That wasn't the plan. A lot of people collect mini bikes, things like that.
Right.
They weren't my thing. I'm into 3-wheelers because that's what I grew up on.
Right.
My dad had a utility 3-wheeler. A lot of people think of the Big Red, the Honda Big Red racks. Something a farmer would have.
Right.
My dad had one of those when I was a little kid, and the 4-wheeler equivalent of that. And I just grew up riding, and I fell in love with it after school. I'd be out on the machines in the woods. We've got a small 6-7 acres worth of woods behind the house. That could have been 600 acres to me. It felt enormous.
Absolutely.
Of course.
And that's really when the hook was set for that hobby and that passion. You asked how many I have now. I don't know exactly. That's
a
lost count.
But ballpark about 115.
Wow.
But when I started goal setting, I'll back up a little bit. So I went to an engineering school, late 1990s, early 2000s, graduated in 2002. And
Did you like the school?
I'm glad I went there.
What was the name of the school?
Clarkson University.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
Continue, sorry.
And it is a good school, and I'm glad I went there. I met my wife there. I made a lot of friends there. I was in a fraternity there.
Right.
So it's got definitely a special spot in my heart. Coming out of school, my wife and I were living in the area, and one fateful night, we were out in Saratoga, and we bumped into a couple that would become our friends, and they introduced us to the Amway business. We were in the Amway business for close to 10 years.
Okay.
We learned a lot of things from that. We're no longer active in that, but I'm glad we did that.
Right.
That we grew a lot as people. We learned a lot of success principles there, and it definitely formed some things inside me. It established some principles, I guess. We read a lot of books, but goal setting was definitely preached and pushed.
Yeah, I
as
noticed
part of that.
one of the things that you said was that wasn't the plan because you had a plan.
Yep.
Okay, so what was the first 3-wheeler that you had?
Recently?
No.
So that
What
one
got
that I
you-
mentioned.
Yeah.
So it was a 1984 ATC 200 ES Big Red. If you're a trike nerd, that means something. But
Yeah, no, we're gonna show an image of that.
Right, yes,
You know?
absolutely.
I'll share with you one of me on that when I was a little kid. My sister had a little 70, like the little smallest model Honda made.
Right.
She cut her thumb pretty bad on that one day.
man.
We were out on a family ride, and that machine disappeared. I don't know whatever happened to that. So I grew up riding those. I remember my friend Eric Johnson, great friend of mine. We were riding that machine double one day, and we were riding the roads. And, I did some stuff I shouldn't have done. That's why I didn't ride it here today. It's frowned upon by the local law enforcement. But we were riding the roads one day, and Eric was behind me, and we're hammering it, probably going 35. This thing wasn't known for speed. And Eric said, "You need something faster." And I looked back at him like, "What are you talking about? This is a rocket ship." And he said, "No, my brother has a friend that had a 250R three-wheeler, and that's like Honda's race model three-wheeler, two-stroke, fast, hurt yourself in a hurry fast." And I was like, well, I'm not sure what that is, but I filed that away. And a year or two later, my dad let me sell the four-wheeler that I'd mentioned, and that was a utility four-wheeler rack. It wasn't, it was slower than the three-wheeler because it was the same motor, but it was heavier. And he let me use that money, and I bought a 91 TRX 250X. So that's like an entry-level sport four-wheeler. Good if you're 15 years old, something like that, which I was. I loved that thing. I rode it, made a lot of good memories on it. Didn't crash it too bad, but eventually I wanted to go faster than that because they're not, rocket ships either. But when you're first starting out on it, it's amazing. I didn't want to go two-stroke because two-stroke motors are a little noisier, a little more finicky. If you're in the woods, if you're riding in open territory where you can hammer on it, that's great. That's really what they're made for. But if you're putting through the woods and technical terrain, they're not ideal. So I didn't want to go two-stroke. But the biggest four-stroke you could get at the time, this is 96, was a ATC 350X that they stopped making in 86.
And you still have one, correct?
I have one now, but the one I'm talking about buying at this time, I sold.
Wow.
At that time, Facebook Marketplace wasn't a thing. You couldn't get on Craigslist. That didn't exist yet. Al Gore hadn't invented the internet yet. So you had to go down to your corner store and buy the Want Ad Digest. Flip through the pages.
Those.
Yeah. So me and my buddy Luke, another good buddy of mine, we were out driving around one day, as you do when you're 15, 16 years old. I didn't have my license yet, but I wasn't driving, for the record. But we picked up a Want Ad, and I found one for sale in Mayfield, which is 10 minutes down the road. And we ended up picking that up. Well, we ended up going to see it, and I told my parents I was going to go down and look at it because I had just sold that four-wheeler. And now I'm looking, and it was beautiful. Had the chalk lines in the tires, and it was low hour, and something that if I found that today, oh my God, it'd be an $8,000 machine. But back then he was asking $1,300.
Wow.
And it was funny. I remember driving down there with my buddy, and I'm saying, we gotta negotiate this, and play it cool. We don't want to let him know we want it to. He's like, yeah, of course. So we get there, and I'm like, oh my God, this thing's amazing. I know. That went out the window.
A salesman's dream.
So I didn't have my cash on me. I was just going to look, and it was only 10 minutes away, so it wasn't a big deal. So we checked it out. I was like, I'll be back. And he's like, yeah, I got a guy coming in the morning. That infamous guy. It's always coming.
Yes.
So I was like, well, no problem. We'll be back tonight. So I went back to my parents' house and told my mom, I was like, I need my money. Where's and she goes, well, you got to go talk to your father.
Okay.
And my dad's cool. My dad was like the coolest dad.
Right.
And so what I'm about to tell you was the weirdest thing. So I go in. He always went to bed early. So probably still daylight out. He's laying down. So I go in. I was like, Dad, this machine's amazing. It's definitely perfect shape, and I need my money. And he's like, you're not going to buy the first three-wheeler you go look at. And I was like, no, I get it. Because before I bought that four-wheeler that I had mentioned, we went and looked at one that was garbage. And I really wanted to buy it because I was just, the excitement.
Thirsty, yeah.
And so he's thinking of that. I was like, no, Dad, I know what you're thinking. This is not that. This is like a beautiful machine. And he's like, well, it's beautiful. We'll go down and look at it tomorrow. I was like, no, there's a guy. There's a guy coming.
He's
tomorrow.
coming.
You know that guy.
Yeah. So he was insistent. And I'm like just watching this deal crumble in my hand. Wow. So meanwhile, my buddy Luke is out in the living room with my mother and my sister. And he's just saying, yeah, this machine's really he's just nonchalantly just telling them about this machine we went and looked at. So my dad was insistent, no, we're not doing this. And I came out of the bedroom, and I'm down in the mouth. And my mom goes, let me go talk to him. And I was like, because Mom was probably the primary disciplinarian in the house, so I was like,
surprised.
What is this? And she went in, and she came out with the envelope with the money for my four-wheeler, and she goes, go get it. I was like, no.
That's great.
Yes.
Wow.
So we drove down and we got it, and I remember the guy told me when he was selling it, we were doing the deal, he sold it because he got a DWI, and he had to sell it to get money. And he was drinking when he sold it, and I remember when he signed the bill of sale, he's like, it's kind of hard to sign with a buzz. And I was like, okay. But so that was probably the first machine that was like, man, I love this. I love these. I still remembered my buddy talking about that 250R, that magical unicorn of a machine. And I'd gotten Dirt Wheels magazine. I knew what they were now, and I told my buddy Pat. All my stories involve my buddy Eric, my buddy Luke, and my buddy Pat. A lot of them involve Pat, the bad ones. machines, one night Pat night anyway. But I told Pat one day that I was like, I want to find a beat up 250R, and I could put all new stuff on it. I wouldn't feel bad about taking good parts off to put on aftermarket parts. And one day, we pulled into our buddy Mike's driveway, and one was sitting there, and a different guy had been out riding it, and I ended up buying it from him, not that day, but about 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And I did what I wanted to that machine. Mm-hmm. I still have that machine. So that was 97 that I bought that. So I've still got that machine.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I'm restoring it now. It's only taken me it'll be 3 years this spring.
Bought, let's say, your first 5 bikes. What made you want to set a goal to buy over 100?
Okay, so that's why I brought up Amway.
Right.
You go to enough Amway meetings and seminars that they put on, and they write down the things you want.
Right.
You got to know why you're doing the things you're doing, whether it's a three-wheeler collection, whether it's a business.
Right.
And I think that's why I love coming here and talking to you, Mike, because you're always game planning and you have the vision. So some people call it a vision board, but you have that list of things, and probably most people are the same in some regards.
Right.
Nice car, nice house,
Right.
Financial independence.
Right.
And on that list for me was Honda three-wheeler collection, and that meant one of each.
Right.
I didn't know exactly what that meant because I didn't know how many there were. I knew there was probably a couple dozen, maybe 30. I didn't know it was 78. Would that have changed me? Probably not.
Right.
But I was just writing down some goals at that time. So that's where the plan came from. And at that time, this is probably 2003, I wasn't making enough money to even think about that. We were, do I buy this energy drink?
Right.
Do we have enough money in the budget where I can get this now?
Right.
We had to make those decisions.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. In your journey of collecting these machines since 2003, has there been something that kind of like slowed you down from collecting? Did it stop you for a couple years? Did you stop at all? And if so, you obviously continued at some point. What's something that may have hindered your journey, slowed your process down, or stopped it? And what was it that ultimately had you keep going and say, no, I'm going to keep collecting. I'm going to keep going?
I don't know that I've got anything juicy like, some obstacle, life threw this at me and I had to overcome that.
Yeah.
But like, maybe I can frame it this way. So when I set the goal, I just wasn't in a financial place to do it. But whether or not the three-wheeler goal was, in the back of my mind, I don't think it was. But I knew I wanted a lifestyle that I didn't have, whether it was three-wheelers or just, like I said, if I want to buy an energy drink, I don't want to have to think about what's that's going to impact the grocery budget.
Absolutely.
So at work, I was keeping my head down, trying to do the best, produce the best, what it was for me at the time. I don't want to try to explain what I was doing at work at the time, but I was just trying to do what I had to do as good as I could, and I ended up getting a promotion. So it was noticed what I was doing, and there were other people that were there longer that had other experience, but they picked me to take on this promotion, and that allowed me to prosper and have more ability to allow Allison to come home from work. Allison's my wife. When our first was born, and he'll be 16 on Christmas, so this is 16 years ago, and that's crazy. I see there's more than two types of people, but there's definitely the people that won't do something until, I guess you could just say that, when I get more money, then I'm going to work harder.
Right.
And that I was taught the exact opposite.
Absolutely.
You work as if, you put your head down, you get to work, and you prove that you're worth that money, and the money will come.
20 years later, my man is able to be like, look what I accomplished.
Exactly.
And I didn't give up.
Right.
And, luckily, he wasn't hit with too many obstacles along the way.
Right.
I know it couldn't have been always peaches and cream
No,
either.
of course not.
But we made it.
Yeah.
Yo, congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you,
Thank
seriously, for accomplishing your goal and for establishing new ones. And I say that to say, because you could have just been a Honda three-wheeler collector, but you were like, you know what? I'm going to document this whole thing.
Right.
And now you record all your stuff. He's got a YouTube channel.
Right. No,
that's
that's
a
awesome.
goal. You got an
What is the
Instagram
YouTube
page.
channel?
This old trike.
Okay.
This old trike.
Guys,
same,
look out for his
same
channel.
thing with his Instagram
Subscribe.
handle
Right.
at this old trike, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple underscores.
So I think on Instagram and TikTok, there's an underscore
Okay.
between each word. So this underscore old underscore trike. So I'm into this collection probably about a third of what the current value is, because in the meantime, values have gone up.
Absolutely.
So I'm very well into this, but it wasn't. There's guys that will go and just buy. They'll just
Right.
they're writing checks or peeling out $100 bills
Right.
to buy their collection and put it in there. But I really had to work for it to make it happen.
Hey.
It wasn't.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't necessarily obstacles, but it was challenges. How am I going to do this?
Where was that one that was it Finland that
Yeah.
It was Finland, right? There was
Yeah.
one. You thought you had them all, and then you were like, Mike, there
So-
was one more.
Yes. Son of a biscuit.
I got them all.
So
Wait.
at some point when I started, I remembered the goal. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, I was going to get one of each. What does that look like? So you can go on Partzilla or different sites and they'll list out all the models.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And I kind of mapped out. I'm like, all right, 1985, they had all these models and they made them from 1970 to 1988. 87 was the last year for the U.S., but they made a Big Red in 88. And most people know about that oddball.
Right.
But what I came to find out was I had 2 missing from my list because they weren't U.S. models.
Right.
So looking at Partzilla in the U.S., it doesn't show up. My buddy in Canada, I had done a screenshot of my list, so I put this in Excel. So each model and year had a cell, and as I acquired them, I'd mark them green.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a nice visual to see,
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Oh, wow, there's more green than white.
Right.
This is neat. And I'd screenshotted that and shared it somewhere, and my buddy in Canada goes, well, you don't have the 85 200 ES. I was like, yeah, because they don't exist. What are you talking about? He's like, oh, no. So he told me about this other one. I was like, didn't take 30 seconds on Google to go, son of a biscuit.
Wow.
There is this other one. So I confirmed that this one particular existed. So I kind of low-level added it to the list. And I don't want to make a big deal about this in case I can't get it. But there's still one more that I didn't know about at the time.
Right.
I find a 88 Big Red for sale in England on eBay.
Wow.
And there was only like one other guy bidding on it. And it came down to it. I'd like set a timer so it got down to 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I was looking at this. And I remember I was sitting in the living room.
Right.
And my wife's like, you're looking really intently at your phone. I was like, I'm bidding on something. And she's like, what is it? I was like, 88 Big Red in England. She's like, really? How does that work? I was like, I don't know how if I win this, how do I get it here?
Right.
And it came down right to the wire, and I threw a Hail Mary bid, and then I swiped down and it's spooling.
Yes.
And I'm like, and it comes back and says, congratulations. I was like, oh, I was shaking. And this thing wasn't like a show queen, but like
Right.
you don't even have the opportunity to buy them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got it. I was messaging my buddy Mike, good name, so he's a good guy. I was messaging this guy I know, Mike Palmgren. I'll shout him out, Vintage Motorsports from Massachusetts.
Yes, sir.
He ships a lot. He's like the best restoration person ever. And I can't say enough nice things about him, but he's amazing. But I know he ships out from the U.S. I was like, Mike, what is shipping? He's like, well, it's different to ship out than it is to ship in. Usually it's more expensive to ship in, but you're looking at a couple $1,000s. I was like, okay. This is before I'd gotten the bid.
Right.
And long story short, I won the bid. I figured out, a guy recommended a company that would ship it whole. They would crate it, which was a glorified cardboard box. It really wasn't a crate. And
It worked.
They shipped it by boat. I had to go down to New Jersey to pick it up. It cost me $4,000 to ship it. On top of, I think I got it for like $3,000. So
You paid more for shipping than you did for the
I
actual
did.
item.
Yeah, but that's one of 3 in the U.S.
Right.
My buddy, who has a bigger collection than me,
What's his name?
Binky Tapscott.
Yes, Binky. I heard a lot about you, Binky.
Yeah, his collection, he calls it the Forever ATC collection. He's down in Virginia.
Okay.
And if you look him up, Forever ATC or Binky, you'll find him.
You'll find him, right.
He's got a checkerboard floor,
Okay.
and it looks like a dealership. It's
It's
amazing.
awesome, bro. I checked out his
Wow.
page. Yeah, it's awesome. And you visit him. You guys are buddies.
He opens it up to the public. A lot of people will give him a hard time. They'll be like, how greedy. But he is the most humble, salt of the earth
Right.
guy.
Wow.
And he does this for people. Like, it's a museum.
Yeah.
And you can go and he hosts people once a month.
Right.
He didn't for a while. It took him a while to get things in place. But
Right.
he's got 2 of these 88. They're not big reds. They're super reds. Because in Australia, they were branded super red because there was some copyright infringement on big red. I think there was a big red tomato soup.
Okay.
So Honda had to call them super reds. But he's got 2 that probably were never used. They're amazing. And so I've got the 3rd crappy one. And, but mine came from
Still got
England.
it.
Between the time I bought it and the time I got it, so I bought it and I'm like, I got them all. I might don't have them in my possession yet, but I got them all. So then I'm scrolling Instagram, and my buddy Kyle Vollers, Old School Hondas on Instagram.
Hey.
Awesome guy, funny content, 3-wheeler and ATV related.
Right,
so
right.
if you don't like that, then don't bother. But, I'm scrolling his Instagram, and I see what looks like one of the 3-wheelers I grew up on that my dad had. And mentally, I'm like, oh, that's a nice 84 Big Red. But I went back because I was like, the tank decal looks different. I'm like, did they put, zoom in, they put the tank decal on wrong or what's going on? I was like, no, that's a totally different decal. What the heck am I looking at? And I noticed it said 200E. I was like, but that's not the 200E E decal. What the heck is this thing? So I go to this website, which is based in the Netherlands. It's like Partzilla, called CMSNL, and they list out all the schematics kind of worldwide. They don't just limit it to what was US, and it's not like there's a big difference. But I go in and I start searching, and sure enough, this is an 84 200E, and I've never heard of it.
Wow.
And so I reached out to my buddy Mike in Massachusetts again. I was like, Mike, have you heard about an 84 200E? He's like, I don't think so. I was like, well, look at these pictures. Now, I've got screenshots of everything, and he's like, huh. And I went to CMSNL. He's like, yeah, I think you're onto something. I was like, wow. Son of a, I had them all. And now I don't. So I messaged that guy on Instagram. He's in Finland, Lapland, Finland, which is like way northern Finland.
Okay.
It's not for sale, which I was kind of relieved because that's how the heck do you get something from Finland? I see one a week or a month or however long later in Chile. So I'm starting to think like
Chile.
Chile. So this is an oddball because in '84 it should have been shaft drive with reverse, and I'm getting all trike nerdy on you, so just bear with me.
Yeah, we don't speak that, but someone out there understands what you're saying.
Yeah, they were chain drive. They switched to shaft drive and they added reverse, and that was the '84 model that everybody knows. That's the one I grew up on, shaft drive with reverse. But it looks like they were using up some chain drive chassis and sold them in peripheral markets and trying to use them up, if I had to guess. My buddy Mike in Mass that I've mentioned, he knew Mr. Honda and said like he hated wasting things. So he was still alive at this time. He's passed now.
Yeah.
But, so he's like, that totally makes sense that would be something he would do. So it looks like they were only selling them in weirdo markets, and a lot of people don't know what it is. And I've gotten a lot of internet fights with people about no, I got one just like it. It's like, no, you don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
But
you don't got this one.
Right. Definitely don't got that one.
we're running out of.
It's too hot. Camera's too hot too.
Man, it's the content.
Yeah, I think
This is hot content. I wonder why.
So I do some searching around. I find a guy on Facebook that has pictures of one, and it's really clean. And he's based in Finland.
Okay.
And I'm like, man, Finland got a lot of these things. So his name's Risto, and he's become a good buddy of mine. I asked him about the machine and the pictures. He says, no, I've gotten rid of that one. And I said, okay, no big deal. I told him who I was and why I was interested. I said, if you ever see another one, keep me in mind.
Right.
And people ask me that stuff all the time. If you ever want to sell one, keep me in mind. I get asked that too many times, and I forget who's wanting what. But Risto didn't forget. And a month or two later, he sends me, it looked like a Finland version of Craigslist.
Yes.
With a listing of this. And it was all in Finnish. But I could see the price.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this looks like what I want. So I started messaging him, and I don't know him very well.
Right.
And I said, I'd definitely be interested in buying that. He's like, I'll go pick it up for you. Pay me and I'll go pick it up. And I'm like, And it was a leap of faith. He negotiated with the guy on my behalf, so he didn't come down in price, but the guy agreed to deliver it to him. I PayPal'd him, crossed my fingers.
Wow.
He's sending me pictures.
Yes,
he's like,
yes.
yep, it's here. He's checking it out for me, and he's like, it runs good.
Took a risk
And,
on that one.
So, remember I mentioned Julia.
Yes.
Shipper Julia.
Shipping,
So I was like, Julia, we're getting the band back together. We got to ship this thing from Finland now. What's my price? Now, due to Brexit, UK, where Julia lives, is outside of the EU.
Right.
Finland is inside the EU. So she can't get as good a pricing, apparently, since she's an outsider.
Yes.
So she comes back and says it's going to be $6,000. I was like, Julia, can you sharpen your pencil just a little bit? Is there anything we can do? And she said, we might be able to do $5,500. I was like, I'm going to try something else. So here's like another obstacle.
Right.
How do I do this? I love puzzles. I grew up solving puzzles. How do I solve this puzzle? So I mentioned my buddy Nick in the Netherlands. Risto and Nick had been talking, and Risto kind of mentions that Nick wants something, and he's going to end up shipping it to Nick in the Netherlands, from Finland to the Netherlands. I said, really? What's that cost? He goes, it's about 600 euro. And euros and dollars are about the same, so about $600.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, so I know it's 2,000-ish from the Netherlands to here, and then it's 2,000 plus 600. Carry the one.
That's cheaper
That's
than
a lot
55.
cheaper. Yes.
a lot cheaper than 50.
So I was like, I'm going to message Nick, see if he's interested in doing this. And he was like, all in. So we had it shipped on a truck from Finland to the Netherlands, and then Nick tore it down and crated it. That one came right to my house. Each time it's getting a little bit cheaper and a little bit closer. So, and that was the last one.
That was the last
when
one.
I looked that one up, I made sure there weren't any other oddballs I'm missing.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
That is amazing.
Man, look into three-wheelers, the history of them, particularly Honda. Now, let me ask you real quick. You're about to take a sip of a Honda Hoarders mug.
You had the same
Oh,
question
I was
had.
mentioned. So I mentioned my buddy Vinny in Facebook groups. So Vinny was adminning a couple ATV, vintage Honda.
Right.
Was one of the early ones, and ATC Animals was out there. And ATC Animals was kind of a lot of drama, kind of like locker room talk, guys letting whatever fly. Vintage Honda is still out there and still a good site. Vinny wanted his own group, so he started a group called Honda Hoarders on Facebook.
He's rocking the hat.
see.
Vinny,
Yeah.
just so you know, he's rocking the hat. He got
Yes.
the mug.
You got the merch.
He's
on.
representing.
I rock more Honda Hoarder stuff than Vinny does. And I'll take a minute to bash my friend, because that's what good friends do.
That's right.
Vinny loves cats, and I think he's gotten a little in the weeds. Yeah, he's got a couple Maine Coons. They're kind of weirdo looking, like they're oversized.
I like Maine Coons.
Yeah, but they look like little aliens.
They're
Like,
a little
and his-
alienish.
They got like the hairy ears, like they're about a 75-year-old dude. They need to come see you, Mike.
Come on, Vinny. Vinny.
Anyway, he's a great friend. Just celebrated his 2-year wedding anniversary. He's going to be a new
Oh,
father
wow.
here.
Congratulations.
next month.
Vinny.
Congratulations to Vinny.
Let's get him a
All
round
Yes.
of applause.
That's
Now,
hilarious.
you already know my next client is here, guys.
Yes.
I gotta ask Mr. Frazier one last question. Goal setting was the topic. You've conquered some of your goals. We have too. What's something that you might be able to say to that listener right there that's thinking about setting a goal or has a goal in the back of his mind, knows what he needs to do, but he's lacking the fire under him? Maybe he doesn't have the support that some of us once had. What's something that you might be able to tell him? You know, an aspiring collector, an aspiring, you know, any kind of career path that this gentleman might want to take. He doesn't really know how to plan. You know, what can he hear?
A lot of people are going to wait, you know, or they think they got to wait until everything's perfect. It's like, I'm not going to go to work until all the lights are green. Like, it ain't going to happen. Like, you got to start. You got to do it. I gained some weight in the past couple of years, probably like a lot of people.
Same.
So I blame whatever, but stop blaming people. Stop blaming things.
You heard that?
Just
Stop
take
blaming.
accountability.
That's it.
I knew I needed to get to the gym. I knew I needed to do something. I started doing something.
Right.
You know, go for a walk, you know,
Right.
or whatever it is for your goal. Like, just start and keep going. Keep your head up or head down and keep working. Or it's gonna take work. I think a lot of like the youth today expect things. This is all my opinion.
No, I agree.
That you know, they've become very entitled. They think, you know, they're gonna come out of school and they're gonna make, you know, $100,000 a year. It's like, you ain't.
Nope.
And you thinking that is gonna happen is gonna hinder you, and you're gonna pass opportunities.
Yes.
Because you're like, no, I'm waiting for the $100,000 job. Well, you're not going to get the $100,000. What's the saying? You know, opportunity is often dressed in work boots and overalls.
That's right.
Like, you got to do the work.
You gotta put in that work. Yeah, so man, you heard it from Preston Frazier at this old trike, 2 underscores in between the words. Follow him on YouTube as well. Same
And
name,
TikTok.
this old trike. TikTok the same way. Shout out to Vinny. Shout out to Mike, Matt, Julia, the shipper.
Yes.
Shout out to Finland.
All the people.
All the people.
Bristow, Nick.
Yo,
Binky.
Binky. Shout out to Binky too, man. Thank you too for just coming on this show.
This went by fast.
We had some fun, right?
yeah, we
this was
did.
fun. This is his first podcast.
Yeah. We got to have him on again. A co-host or something.
Yes.
He's
yes,
great.
that'll
He's
be
great.
awesome. Heck yeah,
Yes.
heck yeah. Seriously, thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for the support.
Yes.
Keep conquering the goals. Keep motivating me every time you sit in that chair. I appreciate the conversations.
Yes, sir.
and yeah, thank you for blessing us, man.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that, man.
I'm honored.
Absolutely. And give one more time, round of applause for Preston, everybody, please. He was an amazing guest. Amazing guest. Thank
This
you, guys.
was episode 7, Shop Talk FCB.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Peace.